I'm 89 and live independently. These 5 morning habits keep me healthier than my own children. Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered when strength quietly left your body, when energy slipped away without asking permission? I stand at 89 years old, living independently, waking up each morning without regret, without dependence, without fear. Not because life has been easy, not because age has been kind, but because discipline has been faithful. Age does not weaken us, neglect does, comfort does, excuses do. While many chase comfort, I chose consistency. While others waited for motivation, I built rituals. And those rituals, practiced quietly every morning, have kept me stronger than people half my age, even healthier than my own children. Let me share the 5 morning habits that changed everything. 1. I wake before the world wakes, before the noise. Before the phones, before the demands, the early morning is sacred. It belongs to no one else. In those silent moments, I remind myself, I am still here. I am still capable. I sit upright in bed and breathe deeply, not rushed, not distracted, just breathing. Gratitude is not soft weakness. It is mental armor. When you begin the day thankful for breath, for movement, for another sunrise, you disarm fear before it attacks. Most people wake up reacting to life. I wake up preparing for it. The Stoics understood this truth long ago, that we must prepare our minds before we face the world. When your mind is steady, the body follows, too. I move before my excuses wake up. The body at rest decays. The body in motion survives. Every morning I move, not because I feel like it, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Simple stretches, light strength movements, a steady walk, nothing dramatic. Just deliberate. Consistency is greater than intensity. I once knew a man in his early 60s, strong, successful, respected. He said he would start exercising when things slowed down. Things never slowed down, his body did. Within a few years, he needed help climbing stairs. His confidence faded faster than his strength. Meanwhile, I kept walking. Health is not lost in one dramatic moment. It is surrendered in small daily neglect. When you move each morning, you tell your body you are still needed, and the body responds with loyalty. 3. I train my mind before the world trains it for me. Before I speak to anyone, I read a few pages of wisdom, often from thinkers like Marcus Aurelius or Seneca, not because they are ancient, but because they are timeless. They remind me that discomfort is not tragedy, that aging is not injustice, that death is not an enemy, but a natural companion walking beside us all. Most people consume noise in the morning, news, arguments, distractions, and then they wonder why their mind feels chaotic. If you do not discipline your thoughts, the world will gladly do it for you. At 89, I have buried friends. I have endured loss, I have felt pain, but suffering grows louder when the mind is untrained. Mental resilience is built daily, not during crisis. 4. I eat with intention, not emotion. Breakfast is not entertainment. It is fuel, simple, nourishing foods. Nothing excessive, nothing indulgent, just what the body requires. I do not eat to escape boredom. I do not eat to soothe loneliness. I eat to strengthen the machine that carries me through the day. Many people consume more than they need and move less than they should. Then they blame age. Age is honest. It reflects how you treated yourself for decades. Moderation has been my companion. And moderation rewards loyalty with longevity. 5. I review my mortality every morning. This may sound heavy, but it is freeing. Each morning I remind myself, this day is not guaranteed, and because of that it becomes precious. When you understand life is temporary, you stop wasting it. You stop postponing health. You stop delaying forgiveness. You stop saying one day. There is no one day. There is only today. Many fear aging because it reminds them of death. I accept aging because it reminds me to live deliberately. The Stoics practiced this reflection not to become morbid, but to become focused. When you accept the inevitable, fear loses its power over you. A story of discipline over time years ago, when I was in my 70s, my own children would tease me for my routines. Relax, they would say, you've earned it. So one winter I relaxed, I skipped walks, I slept in. I indulged more. Within weeks I felt it: stiffness in my joints, heaviness in my breath, fog in my mind. Nothing dramatic, just decline. That frightened me more than any illness ever could. Because decline does not shout. It whispers. I returned to my habits immediately. Slowly, strength came back, energy returned, clarity sharpened. My children are good people, but many mornings they are too busy, too tired, too distracted to care for themselves. And now, at 89, I live independently, not by luck, but by discipline. Habits compound, so does neglect. The truth about independence is not about pride. It is about preparation. Every morning you either invest in your future self or you steal from it. You cannot control genetics entirely. You cannot control accidents. You cannot control time, but you can control your morning. And mornings shape decades. Strength is not built in youth and lost in age. It is built daily or abandoned daily. At 89, I do not feel invincible. I feel responsible, responsible for my body, responsible for my mind, responsible for my attitude, and that responsibility has given me freedom. If you want to age with dignity, start tomorrow morning. Wake with gratitude, move with intention, feed your mind, nourish your body, remember your mortality. Small actions, repeated relentlessly, that is the Stoic way, that is the independent way, and if an 89-year-old can do it, so can you. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is a furnace. One flickers with emotion. The other burns steadily regardless of the weather. At 89 years old, living independently is not the result of feeling inspired every morning. It is the result of doing what must be done, especially on the mornings when I would rather not. People worship motivation because it feels powerful, it feels dramatic, it feels like transformation. But motivation is unreliable. It rises when circumstances are pleasant and disappears when life becomes uncomfortable. Discipline, however, does not negotiate with comfort. It does not ask how you feel. It asks only one question: what must be done today? When I wake before sunrise, I do not leap out of bed filled with excitement. Some mornings my joints are stiff. Some mornings sleep still clings to my eyes. But I rise anyway, not because I am inspired, but because I decided long ago that rising early is who I am. Identity built on discipline is stronger than emotion built on excitement. In youth, you can survive on motivation. Energy is abundant, recovery is quick, but as years pass, the margin for error narrows. The body keeps records. Every skipped walk, every indulgent excess, every postponed habit is quietly documented. Time is an honest accountant. Discipline is how you pay your dues daily so that age does not collect interest with cruelty. Motivation says, I will start when I feel ready. Discipline says, I start now. Motivation says, it's too cold today. Discipline says, wear a coat. Motivation says, you deserve a break. Discipline asks, from what? Taking care of your own life. I have watched people much younger than me surrender their strength because they waited for the perfect mood. They planned, they talked, They promise themselves change, but promises without structure dissolve. A morning routine built on discipline becomes a contract you sign with yourself every day. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote about rising from bed to do the work of being human. He reminded himself that he was not made for comfort, but for contribution. That mindset does not age. It sharpens with time. When you understand that your role each day is to maintain your body and govern your mind, excuses lose their charm. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It protects your independence. It protects your clarity. It protects your dignity. When I move my body every morning, I am not chasing youth. I am defending function. When I choose simple, nourishing food over indulgence, I am not restricting joy. I am extending capability. The world sells comfort as success, softer chairs, easier meals, less effort. But the body is designed for resistance. Muscles weaken without use. Balance fades without challenge. The mind dulls without reflection. Discipline introduces controlled hardship, so that uncontrolled hardship does not overwhelm you later. There were years when life tested me deeply. Loss visited my home. Friends disappeared one by one. Pain became familiar. In those moments, motivation would have abandoned me. Grief does not inspire exercise. Sadness does not encourage structure. Yet discipline carried me through. Even on days when tears were near, I walked. Even when appetite faded, I ate with intention. Even when sleep was broken, I rose at my hour. Discipline becomes an anchor when emotions become storms. Many believe discipline is harsh. They imagine rigid schedules and joyless living, but true discipline creates freedom. Because I maintained strength, I did not need assistance climbing stairs. Because I trained balance, I did not fear every slippery surface. Because I guarded my diet, I avoided burdens that weigh heavily on so many in later years. Freedom in old age is not an accident. It is engineered. Every repetition matters. A single morning walk may seem insignificant. A single healthy meal may appear trivial. But multiplied over decades, these actions shape destiny. The body adapts to what you repeatedly demand of it. Demand strength, and it will strive to provide it. Demand nothing, and it will conserve energy by shrinking capability. Discipline is quiet. It does not announce itself. There is no applause for waking early when no one is watching. There is no trophy for stretching stiff muscles alone in your room, but the reward is subtle and profound. You remain capable. Capability is priceless at 89. I once observed two neighbors who retired around the same time. One embraced comfort fully. Late mornings, heavy meals, endless television. The other adopted a strict rhythm. Early walks, light meals, reading, reflection. A decade later, the difference was undeniable. One required assistance for simple tasks. The other still carried groceries unaided. Their genetics were similar. Their starting points were similar. Their daily disciplines were not. Time amplifies habits. Discipline also shapes the mind. Each morning, when you complete a task you would rather avoid, you strengthen self-trust. You prove to yourself that your word has weight. Confidence is not built by praise. It is built by kept promises. When you say you will walk, and you walk, your mind records reliability. When you say you will avoid excess, and you do, your mind records strength. Over years, that record becomes identity. You no longer debate whether you will act. Action becomes automatic. Motivation requires emotion to initiate behavior. Discipline creates behavior regardless of emotion. And behavior repeated becomes character. Character sustains independence. There are mornings when fatigue whispers, "You have done enough in life, rest." But rest without reason becomes decay. I rest when recovery is necessary. I do not rest because laziness disguises itself as reward. The line between recovery and surrender is thin. Discipline helps you see it clearly. Aging magnifies consequences. A minor imbalance in youth becomes a major limitation in age. Slight weight gain becomes joint strain. Occasional inactivity becomes chronic stiffness. Discipline prevents small cracks from becoming fractures. It is not dramatic. It is not glamorous. It is relentless. When you commit to discipline, you remove daily negotiations. You do not wake up and ask whether you feel like moving. You move because it is what you do. You do not stare at unhealthy options wondering if today is an exception. You eat with structure because that is your standard. Standards protect you from impulses. Impulses feel good in the moment. Discipline feels better across decades. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we control our choices, not external events. Aging is external. Time is external. Other people's opinions are external. But your decision to stand up when the alarm rings, that is within your control. Your choice to stretch instead of scroll, that is within your control. Control what you can, relentlessly. Some imagine that at 89 I must possess extraordinary genetics. Perhaps I was fortunate, but fortune without discipline fades. I have seen strong men weaken rapidly because they trusted yesterday's strength to carry tomorrow's burdens. Discipline renews strength daily. Every sunrise offers a decision, comfort or capability. One feels easier immediately. The other feels better eventually. The tragedy is that most choose ease when young and are forced into difficulty when old. I chose difficulty when I was able so that I would not be overwhelmed later. This is not about perfection. I have stumbled, I have indulged, I have missed days. But discipline is not destroyed by imperfection. It is strengthened by returning quickly. Missing once is human. Quitting entirely is surrender. When you fall off routine, discipline does not shame you. It invites you back immediately. There is deep peace in knowing that regardless of circumstances, you will uphold your standards. Storms may come, loss may arrive, energy may fluctuate, but the structure remains, and structure is stability. People often ask how it feels to outpace younger generations in health. It feels less like victory and more like responsibility. Because discipline is available to anyone. It does not require wealth. It does not require talent. It requires decision. You decide once, and then you repeat that decision daily. At 89, independence is not maintained by hope. It is maintained by habit. I do not rely on wishing for good health. I rely on rehearsing good actions. The body responds to rehearsal. Motivation fades with mood. Discipline endures with identity. When you anchor your life to discipline, you no longer fear mornings. You welcome them as opportunities to reinforce who you are. Each early rise is a declaration. Each controlled meal is a declaration. Each deliberate movement is a declaration. You are not at the mercy of age. You are in partnership with it. Age will take certain things. It will soften skin. It will slow recovery. It will change appearance. Discipline ensures it does not take your will, and when will remains strong, independence remains possible. The first hour of your day is not a small moment. It is a compass. It points your mind, your body, and your choices in a direction that will quietly shape the rest of your life. At 89 years old, living independently is not the result of luck or chance. It is the result of thousands upon thousands of mornings handled with intention. When you wake up, you are at your most impressionable state. The mind has not yet been crowded. The world has not yet made its demands. In that space, you either take control or you surrender it. Most people surrender it without realizing they are doing so. They reach for noise, they invite distraction, they allow urgency to replace clarity. But the morning is sacred territory. If you lose your morning, you often lose your discipline for the day. If you win your morning, you carry that victory forward. Small early actions compound into lifelong patterns. A calm beginning leads to measured decisions. A chaotic beginning leads to reactive living. When I open my eyes, I do not rush. I sit still for a moment and breathe deeply. This is not dramatic. It is deliberate. In those breaths, I remind myself that I have been given another day. Gratitude is the first alignment of the compass. Without it, the mind drifts toward complaint. With it, the mind steadies itself. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote about preparing the mind at dawn. He understood that before facing other people's expectations, he had to govern his own thoughts. If a man responsible for an empire needed mental preparation, how much more do we? Your morning thoughts become your daily attitude. Your daily attitude becomes your habits. Your habits become your future. If the first thing you feed your mind is anxiety, comparison, or outrage, your nervous system begins the day in defense. Stress hormones rise, patience shrinks, decisions become impulsive. Over years, that state erodes health. It erodes relationships, it erodes peace. But if the first thing you cultivate is calm focus, the body responds differently. The heart rate steadies, the breath deepens, the mind evaluates instead of reacts. These subtle physiological differences, repeated daily, create massive divergence over decades. People underestimate how powerful repetition is. One hurried morning may not damage your future, but 1,000 hurried mornings create a hurried life. One distracted breakfast may not harm your health, but years of unconscious eating, rushed and emotional, create decline. Mornings are the blueprint of your standards. If you begin your day with discipline, you reinforce identity. You tell yourself, I am a person who honors structure. That message echoes throughout the day. When temptation appears later, your earlier discipline strengthens resistance. When fatigue whispers in the afternoon, your morning momentum carries you through. Momentum is easier to maintain than to create. At 89, I have observed something clearly. The people who struggle most with aging are often those who never mastered their mornings. They drifted into each day, letting circumstances dictate behavior. As responsibilities increased, they postponed self-care. As stress rose, they sacrificed structure. By the time they sought change, patterns were deeply embedded. Mornings are easier to control than entire days. In the early hours, the world is quieter, fewer interruptions, fewer obligations. That is why discipline belongs there. A short walk in the morning protects your mobility. A few minutes of stretching protects your balance. A simple, nourishing meal protects your metabolism. A page of wisdom protects your perspective. These acts may appear small, but they are strategic. The philosopher Epictetus taught that we control our choices, not external events. The morning is your first opportunity to exercise that control. If you surrender it immediately, you reinforce helplessness. If you seize it, you reinforce agency. Agency preserves dignity in old age. Consider the ripple effect of one disciplined morning habit, rising at the same time each day. This stabilizes your circadian rhythm. Better rhythm improves sleep quality. Better sleep enhances hormone balance. Balanced hormones improve mood and energy. Improved energy increases likelihood of exercise. Exercise preserves muscle mass. Muscle mass protects independence, all from one consistent waking hour. Now imagine the opposite: inconsistent sleep, late nights, irregular mornings. Fatigue increases cravings, poor nutrition follows, inactivity creeps in, weight accumulates, joints strain. Confidence drops, medical dependence grows, again all from mornings. Your future is rarely shaped by dramatic decisions. It is shaped by repeated beginnings. When I step outside for my morning walk, the air feels different. The world has not yet accelerated. There is clarity in that stillness. My body may not move as quickly as it once did, but it moves steadily. That steadiness reflects my life. I did not rush into health, I built it. Morning movement tells your body we are still alive with purpose. Without movement, the body conserves energy by reducing capability. Muscles shrink, flexibility fades. Balance deteriorates. You cannot negotiate with biology. You can only influence it through action, and action is easiest when done first. Waiting until later invites excuses. The day becomes crowded. Fatigue accumulates. Unexpected tasks appear. What was important becomes postponed. What is postponed repeatedly becomes abandoned. The morning protects priorities. I have seen families where parents complain about declining health, while their mornings are filled with chaos and distraction. They blame age, they blame stress, but they never examine their first hour. Change the first hour, and you often change the trajectory. There was a time in my 70s when I allowed myself to drift. I began checking trivial matters first thing in the morning. I shortened my walks, I lingered in bed. Within months I felt the difference. Stiffness lingered longer. Energy dipped earlier, mood fluctuated more easily, nothing catastrophic, just subtle decline. That subtlety is dangerous. Because decline does not announce itself loudly, it accumulates quietly. When I restored my structured mornings, vitality gradually returned. Not dramatically, but consistently. That experience taught me a permanent lesson. Mornings are not neutral, they are directional. If you want a different future, design a different morning. The mind, especially upon waking, is highly suggestible. Whatever you repeatedly introduce in that window becomes normalized. If discipline is normalized, resilience follows. If distraction is normalized, weakness spreads. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote about guarding one's time fiercely. Mornings are your most valuable time. Guard them. Do not donate them to trivialities. Invest them in yourself. Investment implies long-term thinking. When you wake with purpose, you train foresight. You think beyond immediate comfort. You act in service of your future self. This builds self-respect. Self-respect strengthens boundaries. Strong boundaries protect health. Every independent 89-year-old was once a younger person making daily choices. There is no sudden transformation at 80. There is only accumulation. Accumulation of care. Accumulation of discipline. Accumulation of mornings handled with intention. Your body adapts to repeated signals. If you repeatedly signal urgency and stress each morning, your nervous system remains heightened. Chronic elevation of stress hormones damages the cardiovascular system, weakens immunity, and accelerates aging. If you repeatedly signal calm strength through structured routine, deep breathing, light exercise, and focused reflection, your body adapts toward balance. Balance sustains longevity. Mornings also shape identity. If you consistently wake early to exercise, you no longer view yourself as someone trying to be healthy. You become someone who is healthy. Identity-driven behavior is far more powerful than outcome-driven behavior. When health becomes who you are, not what you chase, consistency follows naturally. Independence at 89 is less about heroic effort and more about preserved function. Preserved function is the result of daily maintenance. Maintenance is easiest when done first. Your future self is built in the first hour of each day. If you are careless with that hour, you are careless with your trajectory. If you are deliberate with that hour, you reinforce stability. Stability over decades becomes strength. Strength over decades becomes independence. The morning is your opportunity to rehearse the person you want to be. Rehearse discipline, rehearse gratitude, rehearse movement, rehearse mental clarity. Rehearsal becomes reality. And reality, repeated daily, becomes destiny. At 89 years old, independence is not a miracle. It is the result of thousands of disciplined mornings and unwavering commitment to simple habits. Strength did not remain because of luck. Clarity did not survive because of genetics alone. Health endured because every single day began with intention instead of impulse. Discipline proved stronger than motivation. On days when energy was low and comfort was tempting, structure carried the weight. Rising early, moving the body, feeding the mind with wisdom, choosing nourishment over indulgence, and remembering the value of each new sunrise. These small acts compounded quietly across decades. While others waited to feel ready, action was taken. While others drifted, direction was chosen. Mornings became the foundation. The first thoughts shaped attitude, the first movements protected strength, the first choices guarded dignity. Over time, these beginnings formed an identity built on responsibility rather than excuses. Aging did not become an enemy because preparation had already been made. The body was maintained, the mind was trained, the spirit was steadied. Independence in later years is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about preserving the ability to stand, to think clearly, to move without fear, and to live without unnecessary dependence. The future is not created in dramatic moments. It is shaped in quiet, repeated decisions made at dawn. If there is one truth to carry forward, it is this: guard your mornings, honor discipline, and take full responsibility for the life you are building. Time will pass regardless. Let it find you prepared, steady, and strong. Thank you for listening. May you rise tomorrow with purpose, strength, and gratitude. God bless you.